previous videos, we have discussed that numbers can be added, subtracted, multiplied, and divided. These notations are known as operations. These operations allow us to understand the truthfulness of basic equations. In other words, if we have an equation with an equals sign in between it, operations allow us to equate the left-hand side to the right-hand side. For example, we know that 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, because when we add the left-hand side, it will be 2, which is the same value as the right-hand side. These are the basic rules of operations. Secondly, we also stated that negative numbers exist in our number line. In practical examples, negative numbers can be seen in temperature readings, bank balances, and sea level readings. The way we look at negative numbers is different from positive numbers, as the further the negative number is from 0, the lower it is, which is the opposite of positive numbers. Therefore, when we use operations on negative numbers, they often act in a different way. Let's look at a basic number line between -10 and +10. If we wanted to find the difference between 7 and 2, that would just be 7 minus 2, which is just 5. However, if we were to find the difference between 7 and -5, we can count 7 positive integers and 5 negative integers, which would be 7 plus 5, which is +12. What about if we were to find the difference between -6 and -8? That would be -6 minus -8, which would be +2, as there are 2 integers between the two numbers. The first idea we understand about addition and subtraction of negative and positive numbers is that when we add a negative, we are actually subtracting, and when we are subtracting that same negative, we are actually adding. In simpler terms, any positive number is like moving forward or right on the number line, while negative numbers are like moving backwards or left. Let's say we have 5 plus -3. -3 is wanting us to move backwards by 3 steps, which is equivalent to 5 minus 3, which equals 2. However, if we say 5 minus -3, the minus indicates us to move backwards from the -3, and since -3 moves left, backwards of that would be right, which is positive, and therefore would be equivalent to 5 plus 3, which is 8. These ideas create 2 important rules for negatives. Adding a negative is like subtracting a positive, while subtracting a negative is like adding a positive. Let's say Stephen is in debt to the bank of $75. If he were to place $200 into his bank account, how much money would he have? Well, if we were to take the $75 debt as a -75, we just simply need to add 200 to that negative. So firstly, if we take our number line, we need 75 from that 200 to get us to 0. Then the remainder would be our positive answer. Therefore, it would be 200 minus 75, which would be $125 as the final answer. Now similarly, multiplication and division of negative numbers act in the same way as the rules we just explained. If we multiply -4 from 5, we get -20. While if we multiply -2 from -8, we get +16. As a rule, if we multiply or divide similar signs, our answer is positive, while if we multiply or divide opposite signs, our answer is negative. For a simple analogy, a friend of a friend will be your friend, an enemy of a friend will be an enemy, and an enemy of an enemy will be your friend. Our final 2 operations are brackets and exponents. We know about exponents from previous sections of this topic, but brackets are fairly new. A bracket is simply a confinement or separation operation. Think of a bracket as an equation within an equation, and we must simplify the contents of the bracket before anything else. This brings us to the ordering of these operations. This ordering compensates for equations which have multiple operations and a multitude of different answers if tackled differently. Let's take an equation like this. If we were to answer it from left to right, we would get 4 plus 5, which is 9, then multiplying -2, which is -18, then subtracting 6, which is -24. However, if we were to start from -2, we would say -2 minus 6, which would be -8. Then we add 4 to 5, giving us 9. Then 9 times -8, which equals -72. Now, both these answers are wrong because of their lack of order with operations. The rule for ordering of operations falls under the acronym BOMDAS, which stands for brackets, order, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So when we have an equation with more than one operation, we use this acronym. Therefore, to solve this equation, we start with multiplication as the m in the acronym comes first, so 5 times -2, which is -10. Then we say 4 plus -10, which is -6, and -6 minus 6 is -12. What about this equation? We know that the first operation we must complete is the bracket, so we say 5 plus 4, which is 9. Then we multiply it by 2, which equals 18. However, if we were to remove the bracket, the equation is different. Firstly, we would multiply 5 and 2, giving 10. Then we add 4, which will give us 14.